Welcome to AFORadio.com. I am Mag. Hello to the people on Facebook Live as well. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. It's just 5 minutes past 12 o'clock. And today I'm so happy because I'm going to speak to someone I've not spoken to in a very long time. I think it's about a year. And he's actually been pretty busy working on a book, and he's just launched a book as well, his first. So, since it's his first book and all, it talks about his journey, his life, then, I have to definitely bring him onto the show and talk to us about it, right? I can't just let him slide and not talk about it. So let's bring on my guest this afternoon. He is none other than the very brilliant Paul Kum, the Group Managing Director for DGP Group Sendirian Berhad. So hello, Paul. How are you today? Let's get Paul on the screen first. Looks like it's not coming through. Why is Paul not coming through? Hi, Paul.
Mag. It's been some time.
It has. How are you?
I'm doing good. And I think you caught me off guard here because I think this is the first time you described me as brilliant. Thank you.
You are. Have I been that mean to you? Oh no, that's bad. How have you been? How has the whole MCO treated you?
MCO, like I mentioned earlier to you behind the scenes, I think I should consider myself quite blessed because, it could be worse. It could be worse, both in terms of personal as well as a business.
Mm-hmm. But surviving, of course. What did you keep yourself occupied with? I mean, staying at home for how many months? 2 months plus, I think, right?
Well, we had a lot more meetings. As you can tell, I don't really like interviews and stuff like that, right? But
yep.
I've actually gotten quite familiar with Zoom. So I'm not so stressed out, not so nervous now looking at you.
Aww. Well, are you ever nervous looking at me, Paul? It's just the thought that, okay, I'm going on live that gets to you, isn't it?
Yeah, Mike.
I'm such a nice person. Anyway, today you're with me to talk to us about your book, your first ever. It's called Man in the Mirror, and this is what I received in my mail. So thank you so much for sending it to me with a very nice personalized message. I love it so much. So tell us more about Man in the Mirror.
Tell us more about Man in the Mirror. You could ask a more generic question, right?
The question is so wide, you can take it home.
Okay. Why I wrote a book in the first place? I was asked a question before MCO, surprisingly. What is the one thing that I would want to leave behind? Or what is the one thing that I would want to share with the generation that we're in now? That was a question that came out of the blue from a friend, a very good friend. And without hesitation, the first thing I said was humility. Now, the challenge is when I mentioned humility, I had no idea where that came from. Seriously, I know I guess instinctively, I wanted to share about humility. I think that being humble is very important for people and everyone else, whether it's a leader in the corporate sector or as personal individuals. But when that question came across, like, what is the most important thing you want to share with the people in this generation? And it just popped out like that. It started making me reflect. Why did I choose humility? Why is humbleness so important to me that it came out so naturally? And I guess that's where I started thinking about it.
Wow. Well, I think over the years of speaking to you, if there was something that always stood out about you, was the fact that you always stressed about humility. That's something that I caught from every time you came in and you spoke to us. It was always at the base, the foundation part of whatever you were talking about. There was always something to do with being humble and humility. So I guess that's ingrained in you naturally as well, isn't it?
I think knowing that it's important is ingrained in me. But whether I can actually be considered a humble person, that's another story altogether,
Let's talk to your staff.
Yeah, that's it. But that's where the reflection came in. Being humble is not something that we can proclaim, right?
Of course.
I think it's very difficult.
Proclaiming it itself means you're not humble.
Exactly, exactly. If anyone came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm actually quite a humble person," guess what? We would be thinking again, isn't it? And but I think what is most important for me in writing the book was not about telling people how important humility is, because that's not my role.
Mhm.
To me, it's very important, but everybody has their own choice, and everybody should make their own decision what is important and what is not, right?
Absolutely.
What I wanted to share through that book was that uh, reflect. We all should reflect on our own journey, and that there is a reason for everything that happens in our life.
Absolutely.
Uh, why being humble was so important to me. As I reflected, especially you asked me over the 2 months of MCO what I did. Well, I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to look back at every situation, as you can see in that book if you read it.
Haven't yet.
Stage by stage, at every part of my life, from a child right up to where I am today, there have been situations where the people I met, uh, the experiences that I've encountered, everything challenged me. It
Mhm.
challenged me as a person. It made me think of myself a lot. And that's
Okay.
where the problem was, because it made me think about myself. And when you read the book, you will realize that, okay, a lot of times I could get out of bad situations because I stopped thinking about myself.
Yeah.
And when I reflected, I also realized that over the years of meeting so many people, people like yourself, such accomplished celebrities,
Oh, you're
there
talking
is,
about somebody else, is it?
come on, Mac, don't be humble. But there's always one thing that always stood out for me, that I remembered the people and the situations where people exuded humility. I didn't remember the times where they were arrogant. I didn't remember the times where they shone on stage. I didn't remember the times where, they were very charismatic. Yeah, it does shine out. But what I would really, really remember over the years is, oh, that particular CEO of the company, yeah, he's a humble person. Oh, that person that I met who's a super rich billionaire, actually, he was very humble. And these are the situations where I look back and say, humility must be pretty important for it to be so striking, for us to remember.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting that you decided to write about this journey of discovering humility in a book. Was there no other way to proclaim it or to share it with someone else? I mean, how do you get started on trying to leave a legacy about humility and put it into a book?
Have you
You took
seen?
the toughest way possible, isn't it, Paul? Sorry, what'd you say?
I think writing a book is easier than being in front of a video.
Hey, you're doing it
Before,
now.
uh, well, I'm not even looking at myself. I'm just staring at you, so it's pretty good. I think nothing beats a book. Coming from a generation where it's not so much of video or Instagram or things like that, I think nothing beats reading a book. And reading the book, I can refer to anytime. I can flip the pages. I can go to a different chapter. I can jump from point to point, and I can really reflect on the sentences.
Yeah.
So what is important for me is not about the book, but what I did set out to do was to write my journey,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be a reminder for myself. Have I found the secret to humility? Oh, definitely not.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet. I think it's going to be a lifelong journey, and
Absolutely.
that's what reflecting has told me, that even at the point of time where I step in front of the mirror and say, okay, have you been humble today? I say yes. The next day, I may be seen as a very arrogant person by someone else.
Yeah.
And I catch myself being like that on a daily basis, One minute I'm humble, the next minute I'm behaving like an arrogant fool. And, it's a constant battle.
I think it's not just you. I think it happens to all of us, you know. The moment you realize that you're doing something good, tomorrow it resets and go back to being the total opposite, which is really annoying. So it's a constant battle to strive to be good, you know, to be a better person, whether it's to be more humble or to be kinder. It's just a battle every day, I guess, because of what we have to face in our daily basis as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
mm,
Sorry.
no, I guess, as you asked me why I wrote the book, I think helping us reflect is actually one of the things that we've pushed in our programs in the Jungle People. It's one of the things that I've told everybody to do during my coaching sessions. But
Mhm.
the actual act of doing it is another thing altogether.
Yeah.
I say reflect, and yet I don't spend that much time reflecting on the things that I do myself, right?
Because you never had the time.
I think we have the time. It's just that it's not easy to reflect. Why the name Man in the Mirror
Mm.
is literally that, because one of the most difficult thing for an individual to do, I believe, is to seriously look in the mirror at himself or herself and reflect. To be able to judge oneself and criticize oneself, be it for the good or for the bad. I think it's not easy. We believe or we assume that it's easy. We pretend that it's easy. We tell ourselves that we know ourselves really, really well. But in actual fact, how much time have we spent in front of the mirror looking at every single inch of us inside? It's easy to tweak our eyebrows. It's easy to put on the makeup every day. We don't even need to look in the mirror for that, right?
Hey, we do. Otherwise, we can't get matching eyeliners. But I get your point. I get your point. We don't really look deep into our souls and
Yeah.
reflect on the people we truly are, isn't it?
Mm.
It's not easy, lah. I mean, accepting who we are can be very difficult sometimes, especially when we know what our flaws are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back and talk more about Man in the Mirror. I want to know now, Paul is, you know, he's got so many years of experience in coaching, in training. He speaks to all the big CEOs and, you know, top rank people in businesses and all that. But he decided to tell his story through a book and not go out and coach people about it. So we'll talk about that when we get back next on Air for Radio. Good afternoon. I am Mag, and with me this afternoon is Paul Cum. Now, he just released a new book, his first. It's called Man in the Mirror. And of course, most of you watching right now would also know him as the group managing director for DJP Group Sanderia and Berhad. Now, Paul, you have been doing. You've been coaching, right? Coaching, training, educating. That's been your line of work for many, many years now. So instead of talking to people and telling them about your journey and your whole life story and humility and how to instill that, you decided to write a book. It's like completely off course. So, I mean, what was it that got you to go, I think I should write a book. I think I should do this now.
Well, I'm just one person, right? And doing coaching, or that, I can only approach one person at a time, or at the most a small group of maybe 10 or 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm hoping that if I write a book, I can spread the message to a lot more people. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the process and the journey of writing that book was more important for me. I don't
Okay.
expect, I never expected to write a book and have a bestseller, that's for sure. But the mere thought of preparing for the book, answering questions in my head, structuring the thoughts, and the whole journey of reflecting why write a book on humility, share my stories. What is it about my life that I can look back and say, I have been humble? That, I guess, is coaching for myself,
Wow. So it's a reverse.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it.
That's very interesting. Now, what was that moment that, inspired you to write the book? Was there something that happened that inspired you? I mean, reflecting is one thing, but there must have been a moment that you decided very firmly yet that, yes, I'm going to do this because I want it to be known.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've always wanted to write a book. I've
Okay.
been writing for many, many years, but never got around to it. I also have a very good friend who keeps prompting and prompting and prompting. But number one, I said, what do I have to write about? My life is pretty normal. Nobody wants to read about Paul's life, right? I wouldn't want to read about it. It's too scary. But when that question came in, I mentioned, what is the one thing that you want to share with people of your generation? And when the answer popped in my head about humility, I guess I locked myself down and said, okay, if humility is so important, what is it about humility that you want to share?
Mm.
And why did I choose a book? I guess I'm just from that old generation, right?
So no, okay, here's the thing though. You come from a generation where people love to read books. Every spare moment of time that we had, we would read a book. We would pick up a book. But this generation today, books and reading are like, far from thought ever. Nobody wants to pick up a book anymore. Nobody wants to sit down and read. Everything's basically on the handphone. So wouldn't that have come up as, what if people don't pick it up? What if people don't read it? Did you think about that though?
Don't read it. Yeah, of course. What if people don't read it? Then
Too bad lah. They are lost. They won't learn about humility.
no, they wouldn't read about the silly journey that I had. Because I didn't write the book to tell people that, look, you have to be humble. That's not the intention of the book.
Yeah.
The intention of the book is a lot in terms of how the process of finding humility is a lifelong journey. That's one.
Yeah.
How do I get this book out to the younger generation? I guess I probably have to go online with it.
So there are plans then to bring like perhaps an audio book or, the whole book online.
Okay, audio book not yet, but getting it online. The book should be online.
Okay.
In fact, it is. We're just trying to see how we can do the payment gateway.
Okay.
That's one. But also, I guess we also want to target the generation from my generation.
Yeah.
To remind them that, look, humility doesn't happen just because you tell them, hey, guys, be humble. We need examples. We need constant reminders about what humility actually represents.
Yeah.
Because there's also a lot of people who think that humility means staying in the background. Right? And
Yeah.
I think that's humility. Yeah, you shouldn't hog the limelight, but it doesn't mean you hide in the background and be a wallpaper.
Yes.
And we need reminders like that. There are the two extremes that I find out there. The leaders who think that we should be up on stage and always be communicating, the person that I should be gaining all the attention, and I should be in the limelight. That's that leadership. Then there's the other extreme that says, oh, I must be humble. And being humble leads them to the point of abdicating their responsibilities, which is also not good, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, why I write a book is merely that now.
Okay. Now,
Does that answer your question?
somewhat. Okay. Now, what would you say were, some of the biggest challenges that you had to face in this whole journey of writing this book?
Wow, self-censorship. Because when you read the book, you realize I've exposed quite a bit of myself.
Okay.
The parts that I've not been proud at, I've not been proud of. One example is an incident that really, really has haunted me right up to today. Yeah, it's an incident that happened maybe about 10 years ago, or maybe more, maybe up to 12 years ago,
Okay.
but about 10 to 12 years ago. That story is in the book. Should I just tell it again?
What? Yeah, yes. Please tell me the story. Otherwise, I'm like, okay, what is that story? So, what is that particular thing that happened 10, 12 years ago?
Uh, there was this particular incident when we were exercising in my office is a bungalow lot, right? And we got a lot of space. And there was that period where us and the staff were very fit. We were all trying to be fit and trying to use fitness as part of our coaching and leadership training methodology. So we were always out in the garden in the evenings after work, exercising, working out, etc., right? And back then, I think 80% of my team were comprised of ladies. And one day, as they were exercising out in the garden, a man came up to the gate, and he rang the doorbell, and he was just asking for money.
Okay.
He was an old man, an old Indian man asking for money, and he was just asking for a handout, right? He was there for about 5 minutes when I came out from the office, and the rest told me, the girls and I think my brother was there, and they just mentioned, oh, he's been there for past 5 minutes. We've told him to go, but he's been there. He's been persistently there. We don't know what he wants. And that kind of riled me up because my immediate instinct was, oh, this guy's intruding into my territory. He's in front of my gate. He's been asked to leave, and he's still there.
Yeah.
And when I looked out, I saw this scruffy, I guess, quite an elderly Indian man, probably in his late 40s, and was very thin. And immediately in my mind, I said, drunkard or drug addict, because he I had that assumption.
Yeah.
And I started telling him, no, we don't have any money for you, just go.
Yeah.
But he was very, very persistent. And he kept saying, give me just 5 ringgit, give me some money, give me 10 ringgit, give me anything, and he kept saying that, and I kept saying no. I said, just go. And I was getting riled up because I thought only a drug addict would be so persistent, right? Because after 10 minutes of telling him to go, he was still there. So I started raising my voice, and I started getting angry, and I was getting upset. Then I opened the gate, and I walked towards him, and I was beginning to feel like this macho man protecting the ladies and have to get rid of this guy who's been persistently at the door and demanding for things. I says, go. When I opened the door and stepped out, I saw his son with him. And he was a very young boy, maybe not even 10 years old. And he was staring wide-eyed, very scared, and looking at me. You know that feeling where I'm so embarrassed and I don't even know how to back off anymore because I was such a macho and arrogant man. So it
I know
was,
where your censorship comes in now.
you know, this is where the censorship comes in. You're
Yeah.
absolutely. I had to think over and over again. Do I want to write this down? Because there's so many things that people can judge me for.
Yeah. True.
I won't tell you the end of the story. You can go and read it.
So you have to go get the book. Oh man. Yeah, I'm like, okay, tell me more. And he's like, no, you gotta go read it. Okay, okay. Now I'll go read it. Okay. Okay, so Paul, you hold a very prominent position in your company. A lot of business owners know you for who you are. So bearing yourself out like that, putting yourself out in the book, sharing your stories of how you were not pleasant in certain situations, how did that feel? I mean, for me, it's going to be really difficult because people will change their perspective of you sometimes. So is there like fear of, perceptions changing?
Definitely. Uh, Even as I hand out the book, I'm very, very worried. Who are those who are going to judge me? Which person will change the perception of who this Paul is? Because a lot of the people that I know have only met the professional Paul, right?
Yes.
I actually had a call just yesterday, and this person who received the book read it and called me. He kept calling me until I got on the phone, and then he said, "Wow, this is a very different part of you that I never knew about." The Paul that I met was very calm, very professional, and I saw him move around the room very professionally and very comfortably. Well, I didn't know this other part of you. Uh, well, the other part that he was referring to was the uncontrolled anger, the the person who could shout and scream, and I guess putting myself out there,
Mm.
I just, I don't know why, but I had to tell the story. You,
Okay,
you know what I mean? If I
I
want
get
to
it.
talk my journey towards humility, it is these circumstances that has made me look at myself and see whether I have been humble or not.
Yeah,
Mm.
very true. I think it takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage to put yourself in a book like that, and tell the truth and not like sugarcoat it and all that, So it takes a lot of guts, and I think Paul, doing that itself has increased my respect for you for doing that. So now I'm
You
super
never even
excited.
read it.
I'm super excited to go back and read it. So I'm like, what else did Paul do? The fact that that guy called you and told you that, I was like, oh, what else was this fella up to? So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to know what is your big dream for the book. I know we want to talk about your story. I know we want to talk about humility, but ultimately there's always a goal. There's always an end goal. And if Paul is really, really, truly, truly happy with the end result of the book, could he change something perhaps? We'll talk about that when we get back next year on Air for Radio.
Thank you.
AFLradio.com. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to AFL Live with Mag. I am Mag, of course. If you're joining us this afternoon on Facebook, thank you so much for watching. And please, share the broadcast so that we can share Paul's story further and wider, and more people can go and get his book. It's called Man in the Mirror. It's got reflection. I like it. It actually, see? I love this. I love this whole idea, Paul, of actually putting a mirror, but he's so kind that you can't really see yourself. So you actually need to go to an actual mirror after that. So Paul Kam is with me this afternoon. He's a group managing director for DJP Groups in Dira and Berhad. If you don't know what is DJP, it is The Jungle People. Okay, you can actually find them on social media as well. And he just released his first book. Will there be more to follow up? See, suddenly Paul is working on something else. You never know.
Well, we won't say never, but we'll wait and see.
So that means he's working on something. Okay, so right now, we've spoken about your objective or what you've wanted to do with the book, but I'm sure there is an end goal, the bigger picture of what you want to achieve through Man in the Mirror.
The bigger picture of what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
Change the world.
Wow! But that's what DJP is all about, isn't it? Changing the world one person at a time.
Yeah, we started off with a very idealistic dream. I think we feel making a difference.
Yeah.
And I guess the end goal is to be able to tell people that, look, it's not an easy journey and that we all go through it, even though this professional part of Paul, the clients or the people that just know me on a superficial basis, right? They think that everything's always hunky-dory and everything's always professional. But to the best of people, to the greatest celebrity, to the nicest person you've ever met on earth, we all have our own experiences. And we all have something to share. And if we reflect on it closely, we learn a lot about it. End goal would be, well, like I said, if there was a message that I wanted to pass on to this generation or the generation after this, it would be to remember our values. And one of the core would be humble. Remember where you come from.
Wow. Suddenly all our conversations in the past have come back. Talk about values, remembering your roots and stuff like that. It's very nice. It brings me back, Che, like as if, we've had years and years of friendships. But yeah, it makes me feel old, la, Paul. Okay, so now looking back to the work that you've done so far on this book, okay, would you say you're completely happy with the outcome? Is there anything at all that you'd like to change?
Is there anything at all? Well, on hindsight, there are lots of things that you always want to do. Specific words there that shouldn't be there. Something you want to elaborate a bit more, or you left out other stories. There's always that. But I think the book is enough to get people to understand where I'm coming from. And, well, it's a very short paperback.
Yes.
But
how many pages? You say very short. Yeah, it is. 78 pages is very short.
Everybody finishes it within an hour or two.
I think if I gave my son, he'd do it too in an hour. He'd be like, Mommy, this book very easy to read.
Yeah. You should see a different generation of people reading it.
I am so glad that although he comes from this generation, he still loves to read. So let's hope that it stays into teenage life as well. So yeah, fingers crossed. So you won't change anything? I mean, in hindsight, you would like to change much, but is there a particular part that you would have wanted to remove instead?
Is there a particular part of what I wanted? You really want me to say it now?
Yes. Yeah. We don't have all day,
You have to read the whole book. A person who has the Man in the Mirror book should read it from beginning to end, and not not read in parts. There is a part there that says, I was a superstar in sports. I think that's a slight embellishment, right? But I was a superstar in sports. I would like to believe I was a superstar in sports. And back then, if I was a young boy, I guess I thought I could do anything in terms of sports. I thought I could win everything. I thought I could. I was literally in my head, I was a superstar. But in the later years, I realized that everybody who plays sports relatively well always believe that they're a superstar.
Yep, that's
Because
true.
they never competed with every single person on earth. They never really challenged themselves. And again, on hindsight, we always think we are better than we actually are.
Ooh, that's painful, isn't it? The reality of things. I like the back pages where you have, the pictures of yourself. Yeah, it's very nice. I like. So
Yeah.
you got four pictures here. Are those the people who have influenced you in your journey as well?
Yeah, I would like to have pictures of many, many other people, but I guess these were the four who were with me right at the beginning. Uh, and also throughout my journey in life, they've been constant reminders of arrogance as well as humility.
Brilliant.
So there's one picture there of Timothy,
Yep.
and I actually had a question from one of the readers who
Yeah.
said, "Why is Timothy's picture there? You didn't mention him at all." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Okay.
So why is Timothy's picture there?
Well, like I said, he was one of those who were with me from the beginning of my journey in the Jungle People, right? And yeah, it's been a constant reminder of when a person is arrogant as well as humility.
Ah. So he's
Mm.
like your Jiminy Cricket, sort of.
Cricket. Everybody is like that. Everybody is like that.
Okay, Paul, I'm curious. How pertinent is your book in this particular time? When everybody is somewhat struggling, everybody's going through a tough time. Being humble is not going to be easy, isn't it?
Yes. One of the lessons that I've learned in the course of my life is it's not about me. I've told you that many times in all the,
Yeah,
and it's one of my key mantras, right? It's not about me, it's not about us. If you start looking at the people around us, you will realize that, okay, life is actually not so difficult, even in this crisis. Sorry. The first 2 weeks of the MCO, all I could think about was myself, literally.
mm,
How am I going to survive this? I'm going crazy. I've got nothing to do. I can't even step out of the house. Uh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that's all I could think about. But when I started moving away from that thought, uh, it didn't happen to me naturally. It happened because I was looking at my team. We had our
mm.
meetings. I was looking at them, and surprisingly, they were sounding so cheerful, and they were keeping themselves occupied, and they were focusing on so many things. And I began to realize, okay, I should be focusing on them because that's my job. That's my role as the leader of the company, right?
Absolutely.
And as MCO persisted and continued, I began to realize I've got a comfortable house to be in. I live in a condominium where the guards are not that strict yet. They still allow me to walk around if I'm alone in the gardens for a little while before they chase me back. I didn't have to be stuck within the four walls. I had food, and I didn't have to worry about whether I could still have food 2 months down the road. There were so many things I could be grateful for. And then I
Mm,
started realizing there were people who had nothing, who literally,
yep.
because of MCO, they couldn't work and they survived on daily wages.
Yep.
Can you imagine what it was like for them to know that I can't get out of the house to work and I
Yep.
can't feed my 2-year-old son and my 5-year-old daughter? And what do I do?
Hmm.
And when that realization came in, I guess that helped a lot now.
Brilliant.
So not being about us is actually quite key to being.
Mm, Absolutely. I think what you said that was very important. As the leader of the company, it's difficult to see what everybody's going through when you're just paying attention to yourself. You need to look at your team and say, okay, how are they doing? How can we help them go through it? Because as much as your team was very hopeful, very cheerful, and was doing things like, nothing's changed, but I'm sure each and every one of them had their own issues to go through and deal with as well. So I guess when you change the focus, it kind of made things better for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
fantastic.
well, I wouldn't have been able to make it through the MCO without the team, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Good job, guys. I think we all need each other, as the top managers. Sometimes you forget about the people below you, and I think everybody is in this together. This whole battle, against COVID is not just one person's battle, but it's everyone's. So if you're in a company that's struggling at the moment, I think you have to remember that everybody's in this together, and we have to work together as well. So yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an individual, don't be afraid to ask for help. I've known a lot of business owners who try to fight the battle themselves.
Yeah.
But this is an unprecedented crisis.
Hmm.
There's no way we can do this on our own.
It's something that came out of nowhere and hit us like a ton of bricks, and we all did not expect the after effects to be so bad. Let's
Yeah.
all face that, yeah? Anyway, we're all surviving one day at a time, so let's take on this journey together. We're going to take our final break, and when we come back, I'll tell you, or rather, Paul will tell us where we can get his book from, how much it is, and, his last words this afternoon. So, very short break. We'll be back in about a minute and a half after this. Back. This is AFLradio.com. I'm Mag, and this is AFL Live. This afternoon, we're talking about this book. It's called Man in the Mirror. I'm super excited to go home and read this book because I want to discover more about Paul. There's only so much you can know about a person when you meet them like once a week or every now and then. And it's been like, what, a year plus since we met, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to see you again. It really is. And I'm glad that there's another reason to talk to you about, Man in the Mirror. Oh, so thank you so much for doing this. I know how you get very, nervous in front of the camera, but you're doing good. Well done. So, guys, if you're watching this afternoon, you are more than welcome to share the broadcast. It's on facebook.com/AFO Radio. And if you miss almost 3/4 of the whole interview, don't worry. It will be there for you to check it out. Okay. Now, Paul, I want to say thank you for this personalized note. Thank you so much. You mentioned here, okay, you said Man in the Mirror chronicles my life's journey in discovering the most underrated yet most essential value, humility. Why do you think it's underrated though?
Why do I think it's underrated? It's only in recent years that everybody is using the word a humble leader. right? Suddenly
Yeah.
it's a catchphrase. But if we look truly in the mirror and we ask people to define humility in the leader, do you think people will actually be able to do that?
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to say, okay, he's got to be charismatic, he's got to be strategic, he's got to be dynamic, he's got to be a great communicator. But very few people would dare to say, oh, he's got to be a humble leader. Because the question is, okay, what does humility bring to the table?
You are so right.
Yeah, so it's underrated that way.
Yeah.
But humility, in actual fact, ensures that we continuously learn. And that's such an important thing for a leader. Imagine this particular time where we're going through this crisis, and the leader refuses to learn or relearn or upskill. His business is not going to go anywhere.
Oh man, yeah, that's true.
Right? It's a very simple example. Or if we look at ourselves and say, okay, we already know enough. I've been doing this for the past 20 years. I've been coaching and giving advice and giving guidance to so many people of different levels, and I'm good. Guess what? Is there humility there? Obviously not, right? So it's time to take a look at the man in the mirror and truly, truly question, why is humility needed? How can it guide me forward in life? The stories that I share is about my own journey.
Yeah.
I hope that people can relate to it and reflect on themselves as well. We are where we are today because of all the experiences that we have.
Absolutely.
Of those experiences and what we share with, or which one we take to heart and apply, is totally up to ourselves. Right?
I think many times people start up humble, and then along the journey or along the way, you get better at things, you get more, you get wealthier, you get smarter, wiser, you name it lah. So humility kind of exits slowly from the back door. That's what I've noticed. So yeah, it just happens, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So again, if you read in the book, you realize that the little step between arrogance and confidence is just that little step, that one step. And it
Correct.
seeps in when you least expect it.
Yeah.
We always tell ourselves and say, oh, we must be humble, we must be humble, but we will never recognize it when we are arrogant.
Yeah. That's like a painful sword in the soul. Okay, Paul. So, where can our viewers and our listeners get your book from this afternoon?
Okay, for those interested in buying the book, you can send us an email to info@thejunglepeople.com.
Okay.
We got that, info@thejunglepeople.com, D for Denmark.
Okay. And how much are the books?
The book is at 20 ringgits, of which 10 ringgits will be going to charity. And the charity we've selected is the Good Shepherd Center in Phuket. The Good Shepherd
That's a
Center,
school, right?
yes, that's a school for refugees.
Yeah. That's the one that you guys went to visit a long, long time ago.
Yes, we went to visit and we raised funds for it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I guess they still need more funds. So we're still back there.
Fantastic. So don't forget info@thejunglepeople.com. So it's not available at any bookstores?
Not yet.
Why, Paul? I know you're humble and you're being humble, but you need to sell it in a bookstore.
Yeah, Times has been knocking down my door. So I'm just holding back a little bit.
Aww. Okay, we've got one message this afternoon. It comes from Melissa Ng. She says, "Hi, Paul Kum. I'm a big fan. I love the book. When is the second book coming out?" Jeng, jeng, jeng. That was the first question.
When's the second book coming out? Let's hope it's not during another MCO. Okay?
Oh, no, please. He should be already writing one. If he's not, we'll be knocking on his door.
I've still got 1,000 books here.
Really?
I don't have the funds to go for another book. So let's not even talk about the next book, okay?
Go online lah, Paul. Online all the way.
Okay.
Okay, and if you need an audiobook, then yeah, I'm here.
Okay. That was good. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And to all of you, thank you so much for being here all throughout the show. Thank you so much for your thumbs up and your hearts. We love you guys. Don't forget share. If you have any messages, you can still type it down here. And Paul, please do us a favor and come back and check the messages and reply to them lah. Be nice. Okay.
Will do. Thanks
Okay.
for having me.
Before I let you go, what's your last and final words for all our viewers and our listeners this afternoon?
What's our final word? Oh, get the book, read it. Don't judge me too badly. And let's spread the message that being humble and not being things are not always about us. The life is not about us. One final message, this powerful lesson that I learned was from this man called James Kingham. And he's the guy who planted trees. Go read more about it in the book. He planted trees. Literally, he's got trees. He's got planted more trees than Fripp. He's planted so many trees that the Singapore government looks to him for advice and for plants. And there was one time where I was pestering him about, look, can I have a big tree? Because I wanted to plant it in that little resort that I was building. Can I have bigger trees because it takes so long to grow? And he looked at me and he just said, young man, the trees will be there. Your rush for time is unnecessary. I said, but I don't have my whole lifetime to wait for these trees to grow. And he says, your lifetime means nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, literally, he said that your lifetime means nothing. Our life and our span of years is so infinitely small, so minuscule compared to the lifetime of the universe and the planet that is around us.
Yeah.
Well, but a millisecond. So what are you so worried about? Is it the trees will still be here? Everything will still be here? Don't rush it. I think that really made me think about where I stood in my life. We're always chasing something, we're always pushing, but what is really, really important in our lives? I think that's the last lesson we need to think about.
Wow. As always, Paul Kam will leave you with something to reflect on. So thank you so much, Paul, for joining us this afternoon. You know what? You said 1 hour will be torture, but guess what? You sat here for an hour. So thank you. And guys, don't forget to go out and get yourself this book. It's called Man in the Mirror. Email them at info@thejunglepeople.com. Once again, congratulations on the book. Paul, thank you so much for the coffee that you sent me. And thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. We'll catch up with you soon. In the meantime, you take care, yeah? Be nice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.